All right, hello guys, and welcome to the stream. Something a little bit different for you today, since we're going to be doing the first announcement of a brand new game called Empires Apart. And I'm going to be joined by Gianpaolo, sorry, I've got to get your name right, who is here next to me on your screens right about now. Do you want to say hello?
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me.
Okay, and if you have any issues with the sound, by the way, guys, let us know in the chat and we can sort it out straight away. So we're going to be talking about the brand new game that is in development, and Gianpaolo is basically the lead designer and kind of head of the whole project, and he's going to be talking through a trailer, which we're going to be showing you, as well as some concept art and some in-game screenshots that have been taken very recently. Now, obviously, this project is heavily inspired by Age of Empires 2, and I'm personally really excited about this. So, man, I can't wait to dig into this, and I'm sure you guys are going to be absolutely enthralled by what we're going to show you today. So, do you want to talk a little bit about... well, we don't want to go into too much depth just yet. We want to let the trailer do a bit of the talking. But do you want to just give us a very brief overview of what Empires Apart is all about?
Yeah, Empires Apart is a very much a passion project for us. It's something that we wanted to do for a long time. It's an old school medieval real-time strategy game. And I think the trailer will pretty much say everything else, and then we can delve into the nitty-gritty of the gameplay.
Okay, great. So the game is being developed by your company, Destiny Bit.
Right, yeah.
And do you want to just tell us a little bit about who you are as Destiny Bit before we show the trailer?
Yes, we are an Italian independent game development company. We have been active for about a couple of years. The core team is here in Italy, but we work with freelancers all over the world. The team that is working right now on Empires Apart is of 7 people, if I'm not mistaken, because things are changing by the day. We've been working with games. I've been working for games for a long time, and Destiny Bit just came about only 2 years ago. This is our second official project. The first one being Within, which is a mobile fighting game, which is currently on hold. Our main focus right now is Empires Apart. And we also have other projects that we cannot announce today, but hopefully someday we will.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and show the trailer, and then we'll talk all about it.
Okay.
Okay, so there you have it. Empires Apart. So we want to talk about the trailer a little bit and kind of explain to you what was shown in the trailer there, and kind of give you an idea about where the game is at the moment, the direction that the game is going to take. And I mean, there's so much to talk about, really. I'm so excited to get into this. So I think, first of all, I mean, you give us a quick explanation of the things we saw in the trailer.
Sure. What you saw in the trailer, first of all, is pre-alpha stuff, like pre-alpha footage from the game. Like, everything is static, there's no animation, but that's 100% in-game action. Like, it's not pre-rendered, it's not color corrected or anything. Like, it's straight out of the engine. The game is actually really young, like in its project stage. We only started 3 or 4 months ago, depending when you pinpoint the date. And you were actually one of the first people I talked about this project when it was just like an idea on a napkin, basically.
Yeah.
Because when we decided to move on with this project, we wanted to get in touch with people that really know old school RTSs and ask them, what do you want? The first thing I asked you, I think, was like, what do you want from a game like this? What do you hate from games you play every day? The trailer shows various environments and shows what the graphics will look like. Obviously, the map will be much bigger.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll have random generated maps, but the gameplay will be very much old school. So that means isometric view, isometric-like view, no camera rotation. There's going to be zoom because that's convenient to have, but there's not going to be camera rotation. The game is going to be grid-based, so the buildings will be placed on a grid. The units will have a grid that they use for combat and for pathfinding. Basically, we're taking the old school RTS gameplay that we know and love, and we're going to bring it to the modern age. That means how can we improve on that concept without breaking it too much? Like taking the core and expanding it and making it better, making it more modern in terms of UI, in terms of matchmaking, in terms of pathfinding, in terms of networking, and also how can we make it more elegant and more accessible to new players. But the game will be very much old school.
Yeah.
Empires Apart is a very cool title, I guess, and fits very well with the final image that you saw, which shows the French army invading an Aztec-like town. The game has its roots in history, set in medieval times, but it's another kind of history. It's history like if it was told around a campfire. A lot of what we know today about history, about certain civilization, about certain stuff, comes from like people, or like oral narration, like people telling stories about what happened. And so they might exaggerate stuff, they might omit stuff, or, you know, the saying says history is written by winners or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of what we know today about the Aztecs, for example, come from the Spanish who invaded them.
Of course.
And maybe a lot of what they wrote about the Aztecs is skewed by propaganda, is skewed by the fear that they instilled in the Spanish people. And so we decided to detour from the quote-unquote realistic graphics of other RTSs and move to a more stylish approach. Something that can give us some room to experiment and to give these units a lot, like bring these units to life and make them legendary, even though they're taken straight out of history.
Yeah.
So this is not like relative to medieval times, but slightly before, when Hannibal crossed the Alps to face the Romans, he did so riding elephants. If you were a Roman soldier, you saw maybe half of Italy, maybe, and you see this giant monster, because to you that's a monster. You never saw anything like that, with this huge nose, and it's gray and it's enormous, and the soldiers are riding him. That feels legendary to you, and that's what we're trying to do with this game.
Trying to capture those emotions and
exactly
all of that stuff in the game. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think it's really important, actually, because some people in the chat were saying that they want to see some gameplay footage. I think it's really important that we kind of put out there where the game is at the moment,
Right,
and
yeah.
why at this moment in time there's no gameplay footage as such.
The gameplay is still in development. The game is still in development. Like I said, this project is just 3 or 4 months old. We decided to announce it so early because we want to gather as much feedback as possible from the community and ask the community, what do you want from a game like this? The game is running. We have a build that progresses every day. We have resource gathering. We have some early AI. We have some animations. Like, the game is running. We just decided not to show it running today.
Yeah.
But what we expect people to do is to follow development, because we will be putting out animated GIFs, images, videos every day, basically, with what we're doing and where the game is going.
And progress.
So,
I think it's really important that people understand that this is very much about you as much as it is about just developing a game. It's not, they're really combined. Feedback from you guys, every step of the way is really important in kind of directing the game as much as one person's or the group of people making the game, their opinions as well.
yeah, we're a teeny tiny indie studio, and with games, most of the time what happens is, like, for, like, say, a AAA game, most of the time what happens is the game releases, the game gets announced, then releases, and then you play it, and you make up certain expectations for that game, especially regarding to balancing, and then you play the game and the game is unbalanced, the game has bugs, the game doesn't go in the direction that you hope. We want to avoid that. Like, I think that the best thing we can do is to show the game to the community and ask them how we're doing, basically daily. How we're doing, how is this character, how is this animation, and so they can see us struggle with development. They can see how a game like this is built, and also they can provide feedback and ideas.
Yeah. So I want to talk with you a little bit more about some of the dioramas that we saw. So
Sure.
What you can see on your screen now, guys, is one of the dioramas. It's just a circular sort of snippet, I guess, from the game, and everything you see there is how it will look in the game, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, yeah. That's like a proof of concept of in-game graphics.
Yeah, so basically these dioramas then, they give us a different sense of different scenes that you might expect to see in the game, different buildings, different units, for instance. But is there anything in particular you want to talk about of any of these particular dioramas?
Sure. This is, everything you see is subject to change. Everything might change. The buildings might change. This is like a proof of concept. What we show in this diorama is an Aztec town center and villagers working. There's a villager farming. There's a villager gathering gold. There's a villager gathering wood. This game is going to have 4 resources: food, wood, gold, and stone. And so here we basically showcase some early game economy, people working and resource gathering, while the other 2 dioramas, like the first one, shows some action, some stuff going on, like some soldiers. It's worth mentioning what kind of civilizations we have in the game. We plan to launch with 6 civilizations: Aztecs, Mongols, Byzantines, Franks, Chinese, and Saracens. And I think this is a good moment to explain some stuff about the gameplay.
Yeah. So just before you go into that quickly, I just want
Sure.
to say, like, obviously this game is inspired by Age of Empires 2, but I think it's really important to note as well that it's going above and beyond that. That's certainly the goals here. So what is it that will really set Empires apart from Age of Empires?
We will set Empires apart from
Yeah.
Age of Empires. Okay. We're going to focus, like I said, we're going to take that core gameplay and bring it to the modern age. That means stripping it of all the stuff that makes the gameplay more clunky, more maybe reliant on micro instead of reliant on decisions, and making it more elegant. All in all, the game is going to be very focused on multiplayer. Multiplayer is our main focus. Right now, we have nothing to announce about a single player campaign. Multiplayer is where it's at. The game is going to focus on one-on-one and 3v3, and each civilization will be 100% unique. We're getting rid of unique units. We're getting rid of team bonuses, because every civilization will have unique, like every unit will be unique for a civilization. Every building will be unique for a civilization. That doesn't mean that every civilization will have some very weird, absurd mechanic that the others don't have. The archetypes are staying basically the same. You're going to have your archer, you're going to have your knight, you're going to have your spearman, but every one of them, like each one of them is going to be different. It's going to have a different name, it's going to have different upgrades, it's going to have different stats. So certain civilizations that didn't have horses, like the Aztecs, don't need that stable like in other games, but at the same time we can expand and maybe give them another building that can produce other kinds of infantry units. They had archers, but their like main ranged unit, I believe it's called the Atlati, which is like this javelineer, like it's like a device that throws javelins. It's kind of weird to explain, and that's not in other that's not in other RTSs. We can have that. Like, we want every civilization to feel unique, and not only that, we want to build each civilization to fill a role in a multiplayer game. And we're taking a cue from massive multiplayer online games and MOBAs, which have like clear classes or clear roles. Like you have your tanks, you have your DPSs and stuff like that. So if you analyze the gameplay of an RTS, you have your eco and you have your war. And you have civilizations that are very fast in the early game, and you have civilizations that kind of grow later on. Each civilization will fill a role, or will be designed to fill a role. We'll have rush civilizations, which are very strong early game. They have some good economy early game, but they tend to fall off. We have boom type of civilization, which have good defenses early game, but they become a powerhouse late game with very good economic improvements and very good units that grow and grow and grow in stats and tankiness and whatnot. And then we have another category, which is support civilization. And support civilizations are civs that really shine in multiplayer. The focus for Empires Apart will be on one-on-one multiplayer and 3v3 multiplayer. One-on-one is the basic multiplayer, the best, the one that everybody loves. Let's see who's better between me and you. And it's probably going to be you. But I'm going to put up a fight. And the 3v3, we think, is where team gameplay can really shine.
It's at its best, yeah.
Yeah, because you can have the two flank players that can pick two rush civilizations, and then you can have one boom civilization in the pocket position. Or you can decide to have one rush, one pocket, boom, and one support flank. And support civilizations might have stuff like bonuses to commerce, to trade, I'm sorry. They might have some really good monks. They might have some really good siege. They might have some really good trash. Or in general, they are civilizations that like really shine in multiplayer games. So this gives the players a choice that today we really don't have. Because also, we're going to improve a lot matchmaking. We're still going to have the lobby system matchmaking, and we'll see what the best way is to handle the matchmaking. But once you're in that lobby and once the teams are formed, you can choose where you want to play. Yeah. So do you want to play on the flank or do you want to play on the pocket? And so that gives players a choice. I play with friends who are not the best at Age of Empires, for example, and they would rather be in the pocket position because it's harder for them to get rushed. While I, for example, love to play as a flank player because I'm a very fast player early game. So that is something new. That is something that gives players an option. That's something that makes competitive play really interesting. Also, not only that, but every civilization will also have 2 or more variants. So, for example, a boom kind of civilization, for example, the Byzantines, will have 2 variants. One variant that is perhaps oriented to having a strong cavalry but a weaker navy, and one that will have stronger navy but weaker cavalry. And so depending on the matchup, depending on the map, you can choose a variant for your civilizations. The archetypes are going to stay the same. The units are going to be pretty much the same, but stats and tech trees are going to change a bit in order to make the core gameplay of a civilization pretty much the same, but giving that civilization more options to shine in other roles. So the Byzantines might have a support kind of variant where they can also, to boom, help their teammates. Or they can have another kind of variant that gives them other options to play in the multiplayer.
So whilst there's 6 civilizations, you basically have 12 kind of different variants in a sense.
Right. Yeah. And we're actually shooting for 3 variants, but we'll see. That's also something that can come at the later date. Yeah. And we would really love to keep this game updated and add new civilizations as the life of the game progresses.
I think that's something that could be really interesting as well, and kind of addressing the balance of the game and the balance of civilizations. Like I know for a fact, in Age of Empires 2, you get the Vikings and it's a land map, and you just think, oh crap, what am I going to do?
Right.
In this situation, you can choose if let's say I know the Vikings aren't planned at the moment for the initial 6, but if you were the Vikings, you could say, okay, I want to have a variant that's stronger on the land.
Yeah.
And then sort of have a weaker navy for this matchup.
Yeah.
So it will help in balancing in that respect, I think. Exactly.
They can have, for example, a very infantry-heavy variant that shines on land, but it's maybe less strong on sea, on water maps. Mm-hmm. And also what we'll have is heroes. Each civilization will have 2 or more heroes to pick from. So at the beginning of the game, you pick your position on the map, your civilization variant, and your hero. And the hero is a special unit that can be produced only once, that can be created only once per game at the castle, or the castle equivalent of a certain civilization, because Aztecs didn't have castles, for example. So you can produce this unit, and this unit will have some unique abilities. We'll have an active ability and a passive ability. So a passive ability is always on. So for example, a hero like Joan of Arc might grant an attack bonus to the units nearby. And the active ability is something that you actively trigger, and it might be something that gives a bonus, a very strong bonus around that unit, might be something that targets one enemy unit, might be something that targets a group of enemy units, and that ability goes into cooldown, and then you can use it later.
So these heroes are not necessarily sort of mythical or fictional. They're kind of, like you say, Joan of Arc, based on sort of real people in history who are, standout figures. Yeah. Yeah.
This game never detours into fantasy. We like to elevate history to fantastic. If you go and read a lot about Joan of Arc, you'll see that the movies that we saw in the theaters show her as one person, while in reality she was kind of different. But that's okay, because history is full of awesome events, awesome people, like really epic stuff. Epic is stuff that we could not come up in fiction potentially. And so we want to take that. We want to take all the historic figures for each civilization and bring them into the game. That doesn't mean that every hero will be a fighter. We might have merchants. We might have monks. We might have the Pope. Who knows? And this kind of heroes might, for example, give a bonus to the economy instead of the military. And so you place them, for example, near your wood line in order to make all your villagers gather wood faster. But then it becomes a target. And so it gives options to the player. So I go riding your villagers, I go to kill your hero, I go to your town center, and etc. etc.
Just more aspects for kind of strategic play when it comes down to it. You know, it's about making more options viable and trying to keep the options open to players. So just going back to multiplayer, actually, you said about, you know, 1v1 being the focus, 3v3 being the focus. What is the goal for, you know, 4v4, or are you even planning to go past that, maybe 5v5? Is that something considered?
5v5 and beyond is kind of problematic, quote unquote, because of, you know, performance issues and networking issues, you know, latency problems. Although we are trying to implement very modern stuff in terms of keeping the game in sync and keeping the game working smoothly over multiplayer, there are certain limits of bandwidth and of performances that we cannot go above. It's something that we can experiment with, you know, 5 players and beyond, but it's not the focus right now. 2v2 and 4v4 will still be present in the game. I still have a lot of fun in 4v4, but a lot of times a 4v4 feel like a 2 separate 2v2s. And the 2v2s a lot of times feels like 2 separate 1v1s.
Yeah.
If one player crushes his direct opponent, it's basically GG, because it's then going to help the other player win its side. But a lot of times I play it in multiplayer and maybe not even communicate with the other side. So if we're 4v4, I may communicate with my pocket, or if I am pocket, I might communicate with my flank player. But what's going on in the other side of the map, oftentimes you don't really see that often, because that's just so much stuff going on. 3v3 is just the perfect compromise, we feel. And that's how we will try to balance the game around.
Okay, great. I was going to ask about civilizations as well. You say 6 initially. Is that planned to expand to more, perhaps?
Hopefully. History is full of cool civilizations that we want to bring to this game. I, for one, would love the Japanese in this game. But that's something that is going to happen post-release. And mind you, what we would love to do with this game is having a playable build as soon as possible, give it into the hands of players, gathering feedback, adding new units, adding new buildings, adding a second civilization, going to Steam Early Access. So when the game is playable, like maybe with 4 civilizations, so that the game can grow organically. And after release, we can start planning other civilizations, because, you know, history is just full of cool stuff, and we want to bring as much stuff as possible into the game.
So earlier you spoke about actually no, sorry, you didn't speak about this yet. There's something the ages. Obviously, Age of Empires. We have the feudal age, the castle age, the imperial age. Obviously, the plan here is actually a little different. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. And also, everything, like Zach knows a lot about this game, because every time I have an idea or we have something, we go to Zach. Zach, what do you think about this? And, you know, we run it through a bunch of people. Zach is one of them, and we value his opinion a lot. We got rid of ages for a number of different reasons. Ages don't make a lot of sense historically for a lot of the civilizations, just because Not everybody went to the Dark Ages. Not everybody went Imperial, and not everybody lasted that long. So we got rid of Ages and that kind of upgrade system in favor of an upgrade system that gives you more choices. The key word for us is choices, giving choices to the player, keeping the game elegant and quote unquote simple, but having a lot of options. So each civilization will have 3 economic upgrades and 3 military upgrades. Think of it as a 2 branches tech tree, and you can get all 3 of them. You don't research them at the town center or any other building. You research them from your menu. So in theory, villager production never stops, and so the game is more fun and entertaining early game. You can purchase these upgrades that will cost probably less than advancing to another age in a game like Age of Empires, for example. You can purchase these upgrades, and these upgrades unlock technologies and give your units boosts or buffs, stuff like that. So for example, say I'm the pocket player, say I'm the Byzantines. I can decide to take the first economic upgrade right away, and then take the second economic upgrade right away, just because I want to boom. So then I can go and take the first military upgrade and then the second military upgrade, and then just spam units to my enemy just because I have that superior technology, like that superior economic advantage.
So these upgrades are going to be sort of to unlock parts of the tech tree effectively.
Right.
And though those upgrades are going to be kind of in the UI, in the menu, that
Right.
doesn't mean that the upgrades of units as such are going to be in the menu. They're still going to be at the buildings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they pretty much function like how advancing to another age functions in old school RTSs. So units don't get upgraded right away, but that unlocks the upgrade for the unit. So a rush player, which is in the flank maybe, can decide to get the first military upgrade right away and start rushing his opponent while neglecting the economic upgrades for later on in the game. And like I said, this doesn't stop military production. And the early game is one of the parts of gameplay that we are really focusing on. We want to make early game interesting and fun, because doing the same stuff over and over again and eventually gets tiresome. So that's what we're trying to do.
Okay. Great. So I'm sure people in the chat have tons of questions. I've seen so many fly by, and obviously I don't want to interrupt you at this point. But if people in the chat have questions, then feel free to ask now, and we can go through them and talk about things in a more depth. People actually asked me, is this going to be available for Mac? You know, what's it going to be available on, and things like that.
Yes, it's going to be PC and Mac first, and we'll see about Linux.
Okay, yeah, not going to be any mobile games like that. Obviously, it's a full-on PC game. That's the idea.
Yeah.
And also, as well, I know a lot of people kind of get concerned about like microtransactions and things like that. What's the plan?
No.
Nothing.
Nothing at the moment. We don't really have a plan for after the game releases, but I'm a competitive player. I come from fighting games. There's nothing I hate more than having a character behind a paywall or something like that. I don't mind skins. We have ideas to let the player customize how the units look, and maybe that's something that can be paid DLC. But Civilization right now, no. We don't have any plans to have them as a paid option.
Yeah. So it's basically, if you purchase the game, you get all of the game.
Yes.
Gameplay, all of the gameplay, all of that. Good.
Yes.
So I think someone asked earlier on. I think it was Masmora. He said, "Will the multiplayer be network or server client based?"
It's weird because it's not like, it's a matter of architecture and it's a matter of infrastructure. So we're not going to have an infrastructure server client type of multiplayer like StarCraft, for example, has. So both player play on a centralized server that is somewhere in the world. No. What we're shooting for is server client architecture, but among the players. It's something like it. We're trying something kind of new that blends peer-to-peer multiplayer and server-client multiplayer architectures in order to give the players the smoothest experience possible while not relying on third-party servers.
Okay, okay, great. So someone also asked, the Fristy said, is there a population limit? Is there a planned upper population limit? I mean, is there a maximum that you estimate now?
Yep, there is a population limit. Right now, we're keeping our maps and population caps similar to other games in the same genre. So right now, we're thinking 200, 300 units in the average game, like in the competitive play. Going up isn't really a matter of, how the game is built nowadays. It's more a matter of can your computer handle it and can the net, like the bandwidth, handle it.
Obviously, for multiplayer, everyone needs to handle the same. Okay.
Yeah.
And that actually brings us quite nicely to system specs. Is there any sort of idea in your mind now of what the system specs are aimed to be?
Not right now, but we want this game to be very scalable. So we want this game to be accessible for players that have older PCs, and as well as your latest beastly rig should run this game that much prettier.
Yeah. Okay. So someone was asking, are the graphics shown final? Are the graphics shown in the trailer, for instance, just final graphics there?
Yes. That's our target graphics. That might change. We might decide to add more details to stuff or get rid of details for stuff. But that's pretty much the kind of detail that we have in mind. Now, mind you, everything is looked from a almost like isometric like view, and everything is very tiny. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to add a lot of details to the players, since you cannot like fly your camera right to their faces. We really love the style of this game. We mix low poly, faceted kind of style with some hand painted textures. And we gotta give props to our concept artist. His name is Scott Palico. He really brought this game to life. He is the #1 reason why this game looks as good as it does today. And we're really happy about the direction that we took with the graphics of the game. But we're open to feedbacks. We wanted to avoid realistic kind of graphics, because realistic has a lot of more implications, and realism is like an endless pit where you can throw as much money, as much details, as much time as possible, and you will never fill it. Like, Rome Total War does a great job of having the units look realistic and the battlefield look realistic and everything looks very, very pretty. But for what we wanted to do, that wasn't the best solution.
Yeah.
Also, because
I think it's worth pointing out a conversation I had with you a little while back about making the units really recognizable at first glance. Like, in an RTS, you've got so much going on all around you at all the time. You need to figure out what's going on your screen, when and where, and do it quickly. So you said earlier about all the civs having unique units to that civ, but they will fall into the archetypes that we know, Archer, Knight, and as a player, you should be able to recognize that. Even if that's a unique unit of that civ, you can say, right, well, that's obviously a knight. Might have slightly different armor, maybe different kind of weapon, and exactly. You can tell what it's going to be as quickly as possible, basically.
Yeah, we're competitive. Sure, go ahead.
So I was going to say, I think that's where realism as well, like going super realistic, that can really make that very difficult. And
I think,
exactly.
We're very much competitive players ourselves. Mm-hmm. And, every time we design something, we think, is this recognizable? Is this recognizable at the edge of the screen? Is the archetype of the unit clear? something that we're struggling for example, is color correction. Every game does, post-processing, color correction, depth of field, colorization, stuff like that. Instagram effects. The problem with Instagram effects is units, like the color of the players gets potentially lost in the background. And
Washed
so
out as well.
yeah, and so we want to really bring that out. There are all sorts of stuff that we're doing to ensure a smooth competitive experience.
Yeah. So another thing as well is, a really big part of RTS games is the ability to micromanage your army. I think micromanaging economy is something that doesn't necessarily need to exist. You should be able to put your workers to work and they should work just fine. But micromanaging military, is there going to be strategical options like hills, attack bonuses against different units, things like that?
Yes, and we're taking old school RTSs as a base, and we're evolving on that. So, for example, the games that are out today have this uber complicated armor system with hidden bonuses and whatnot. We're getting rid of all of that. We're showing all the stats to the player. So for each unit, we're showing speed, attack speed, damage, armor, stuff like that. We're showing it in the UI. But also, we introduced a system called the attribute system. So the attribute system is basically, for example, a knight might have the mounted attribute because that's a mounted unit. And that displays as an icon in your UI. A spearman might have the long weapon attribute. And if you hover on that attribute, it says +5 damage against mounted units. And so we're making everything more coherent, everything more elegant, and everything clear to the player.
So it's worth noting as well, like you're going to be able to get your quick summary about what that unit's all about. But if you want to dive into the nitty gritty of, exactly what bonuses it has, it's there for you to see. It's going to be all available to see on the screen. And I think that's going to be really important, especially when it comes to kind of players learning the game as well.
Yeah, and, hill advantages, elevation advantages we're going to have that, we hint that in the diorama number 1.
I'll show that now.
We hint that in that diorama. The combat part, is still going to be very much old school in that sense. So, you're not going to have like any crazy formation. You're not going to have any advanced kind of combat like, say, a Total War has, because that's not really the focus of the game. It's all about keeping the game fast and fun. There are also other stuff that we would like to experiment with. For example, brush selection. We would like to give you the possibility of selecting units not only by drawing a rectangle, but also by holding a key and having a brush appear and select units like you were painting on a canvas. And so, for example, you can select all the flank of a formation and have it attack at one unit, select the other flank and have it attack another unit without messing with selecting too many units and stuff like that.
Yeah. A lot of people are asking about maps and sort of map editing. What's the plan at the moment for first of all, like how the maps are going to be generated? Are they going to be kind of fixed? Are they going to be completely random? And also, will there be possibilities for players to create their own maps?
Sure. Right now, the plan is to have random generated maps that are generated at the beginning of the game based on a script. That can change. We would like very much to experiment with fixed maps, but fixed maps run into the problem that execution becomes protagonist. So if you know exactly where your resources are and where your opponent is, it's all about who executes the strategy faster. While random maps kind of force you to adapt to, okay, where are my resources? Okay, I have stone closer. I might go for a tower rush, stuff like that. We definitely want to make randomized maps more predictable and more fair. So we would like very much to not have our board behind a wall of trees. We would like not to have front gold and nothing else nearby. That's what we would like to try. We are on Unreal Engine 4. We are developing this game with Unreal Engine 4. And since Unreal Engine 4 went free a couple of months ago, that made up for some interesting perspectives going forward. Because this game becomes that much more accessible, for example, to modders. Creating mods for this game would be theoretically easier because they could access the same tool that we use. They could access the same stuff that we have to create the game, to mod the game. So that's really exciting, and that's something that we want to experiment with.
So modding capability is definitely going to be there. Also, the plan obviously to go towards the Steam route of things. Would that possibly incorporate Steam Workshop? Is that planned at all?
It's early to say Steam Workshop, not only because we're so early in development that we don't know, but also because the environment of mods is changing right now. Steam kind of experimented with paid mods, and the community basically told them no. But it's something that is coming back, trust me. And from right now to when we release, stuff might change along the line. The Steam Workshop might go away, might become paid, might become something different. We don't know. The plan is there to, having the mods accessible to everybody. We will soon, very, very soon, launch on Greenlight, so we can gather feedback and hopefully gather upvotes from people in the chat. And then we'll see going forward what the plan is. We would like to keep this game independent and not, make compromises on the design or anything like that. And so the possibility of going through Kickstarter or other crowdfunding options is there. We'll see going forward.
Yeah. So people are also asking about, first of all, resources. What are the planned resources? I think what you mentioned earlier, stone,
yes,
gold, wood, and food.
Yeah, we're going to have the same 4 resources, stone, gold, food, and wood. We're going to have similar resource points, gathering points like mines, like cows, like sheep, like boar, stuff like that.
Okay.
But also, who knows, having all unique civilizations, we might have a civilization that produces sheep. We might have a civilization that is able to turn other resources into gold seamlessly. We'll see going forward what we're going to do.
Yeah. So also, again, this is going to be a kind of a difficult one to answer, but so what's the kind of planned ETA for, say, a beta release for people to be able to try the game out at the first kind of point?
We would like to have something playable for people mid-summer, but people will be able to follow what we're doing, like starting tomorrow. So the idea is to give some sort of build to the people like nearing August, something like single player only, or something like a sandbox kind of environment, something that people can try and experiment with. The game is going to take quite a bit of time to develop, but at the same time, we would like to put it out as soon as possible. So as soon as we have one playable civilization and working multiplayer, that game is going to be playable in some form, whether it be early access or whether it be free for everybody to download. We're going to have it out there for people to test and experiment.
I think it's worth reiterating as well, like people in the chat, wow, that's really early. It's very much about getting you guys involved in feedback at the earliest stage possible. Like, from what you've seen today and onwards, we want to hear about what it is that you like, what you dislike, and that's what these guys really want to act on to bring the game that not just they want, but that you really want as well. And going forwards as well, I believe the plan is to get a Kickstarter running to perhaps finish the project. I mean, what's the plan with that?
Yeah, like I said, we would like to keep this game independent, and we would like to keep this game, powered by the community. Not only in terms of feedback, but also hopefully, like, we would like this game to become our game, like the game of a lot of people that love this kind of genre and they want the new game. And so Kickstarter is definitely an option. We would like to go on Kickstarter when we're ready and when we have something more to show in terms of gameplay. But that's definitely something that we would like to perhaps do down the line.
Okay, so I think we're kind of getting towards the end now, but I want to sort of ask you about where can people give this feedback and where can they keep up to date with the project and all of that stuff going forwards.
Sure. We have a website for the game. Right now is in maintenance, but it's going to be ready tonight or tomorrow. But the forums are already there, so you can go and subscribe to the forums at empiresapart.net/forums. The website is empiresapart.net. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at empiresapart. We're going to post stuff starting really soon. You will be able to see the game in action, like as we progress in development. The forums will be the #1 place to give us feedback, but also you can follow us and give us feedback on social media.
And we'll be doing some more streams as well going forwards to highlight things and kind of just give key updates, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Is there anything else you want to say? I don't think there's too many more questions in the chat, or if there are, I might have missed them. Sorry.
I'm really happy that that we did this like together, and because I still remember the first time I contacted you about this game, and when it was like just pen and paper, nothing more.
Yeah.
The game grew so much in so little time, and personally, as a player of this kind of games, and as a competitive player and as a fan of video games, I'm really excited, and I hope everybody is excited. Everybody is excited as well. We would love your feedback on everything we're doing, and so please follow us on social media and on our forums, and let's make this game together.
Awesome. All right, well, I'm going to show this trailer one last time, and then we'll be heading off. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Like I say, I'm really excited about this, and I hope that you guys are as well after seeing the trailer and what we've had to show you today. As I say, make sure that you follow the social media. I'll post it in the chat shortly, and get on the forums as well to give your feedback, because it's really, really critical to the future of the project. All right, well, thank you very much, Gian, Paolo, and see you guys later.
Thank you, Zach, and thanks, everybody.